Hello, how are you? Hey, it's good to be back here. It's been a while. I have just been in, what I say, I've been in hibernation. Hibernation is good. Hibernation is good. If it's good hibernation, if it's the kind of hibernation where you're pretty much trying to recalibrate and just come back to your center, then that is good hibernation. And it's good to be back. So I have several thoughts that I would like to share with us today. So just stick around, and in case you have not yet subscribed to my channel, hey, this is a good time. This is a good time. So click the link somewhere and just click on the subscribe button and click on the notification as well so that you remember every time to check up on a new video anytime I post it. Hey, so see you shortly. Today's video is really just to check up on you. And I really, genuinely just want to check up on you, whether I know you or I don't. And I'm doing that so that you too would be prompted to check up on yourself. And I was speaking to someone earlier in the day, and we were talking about how we could just burn out, how we tend to burn out sometimes. And in the process of it, we are snapping at our loved ones, at our husbands, at our children, at our friends. And we're snapping, and then they are shocked that we're snapping the way we're snapping. And because they are shocked, we now turn around to apologize to them. I'm sorry for the way I snapped at you. I didn't mean it. But that hasn't quite dealt with what made you snap. Many times we allow things to settle on us. We allow someone say something or someone does something, probably from a good place. It doesn't sit well with us, and we don't speak to it, or we don't correct it, or we don't just talk about it. We bury it. But when things trigger a negative feeling, emotions are supposed to be expressed, not suppressed. Whether it's a good feeling emotion or a bad feeling emotion, it's just the manner that you express it that will determine good or bad. So emotions themselves are not bad. It's how you choose to deal with it that makes it good or bad. And just being able to become emotionally aware of how something that was said or something that was done or an experience that you had made you feel is going to make you become more conscious as to how you create the kinds of environment that form or that trigger those emotions. And then you're just more cautious, you're more aware. That is it. We need to be more aware, not just of our strengths, but of our weaknesses, and to also know the things that trigger those things, to also know what those things that we've been bottling are unconsciously cooking up. And it may just take one wrong move or one wrong word, and we go a snapping, and sometimes we go a slapping. And then we have to apologize for stepping out of line. But the deeper thing to look at is, what is that thing that has triggered us? How do we sit down to ask, how am I feeling really? What is making me feel this way? How can I do better for myself? Not for anyone else, because we are in a society that creates problems and then creates solutions to deal with those problems or to tackle those problems. It's almost like speaking from two sides of the mouth, right? Fueling the fire here and extinguishing it here. How do we now ensure, one, that we're not part of those that fuel the fire and then we're trying to extinguish it? And at the same time, how do we consciously create a mental environment, a personal mental environment, where we are strong in thought, we're strong in self-perception, which is very important. We can come back to that center and reaffirm self based on an identity of self that we understand, and then even more importantly, the ability to correctly communicate that identity in the different environments where we find ourselves. As human beings, we are affected by the things that happen around us. We are affected by the relationships that we allow into our corner. We are affected by the inclinations that we tend towards. And if we do not check how we enable things, consciously or unconsciously, they soon begin to etch in our subconscious a behavior that could eventually turn out to not be in our favor and could also be a negative impact on someone else's existence. I was talking to someone earlier in the day, and we're just talking about how, as women, sometimes we unconsciously snap at our children and even make insinuations at our spouses, and we're wondering why. And the question is, do we actually pause, stop to ask why? Bringing the children back from school, and I stopped by a supermarket to pick up something, and my son acted out of character. What it triggered in me was like I was going to lose control. And it had happened a few other times. So what I was supposed to do in that instant was to correct. There's always a learning moment, and pretty much to put in order. But what I did was I snapped. I snapped so hard that when we were done, I could hear myself. Because one of the things I do, I've learned to listen to myself when I talk. So I do hear myself, and then I often play back the entire experience. And I'm telling myself, it was a correction moment. But I think he may have heard more my emotions than he did my correction. So I had to call him again, and his brother, apologize first for yelling and for speaking to him the way I did. I said it wasn't right. And the fact that I am an adult doesn't give me the right to do that to him. And I'm apologizing. This was what I told him. I'm apologizing because I do not want you to think it is an okay behavior so that you repeat it when you grow older. It's not okay. But what I need you to get, and then in a calm, firm, and steady voice, I then told him what I wanted to and taught him the lesson that I needed him to learn. And while we were in the middle of that engagement, he broke in tears. This was someone that when I was yelling and shouting, he was just with a stern face. And because I couldn't quite understand how the emotion behind his stern face, I was getting angrier and trying to use my anger to make him submissive. But is that the outcome? That the best outcome? No. What was actually making me snap was not him. What was making me snap was pent-up anger. Now that is where I'm actually going to know the story. Pent-up emotions that I had not dealt with. And just the ability to come in touch with your feelings, be able to understand per time what you're thinking, and in that instant deal with it. Now, if you want to take a break because you want to be able to communicate your position better to the person so that you are ensuring to communicate your reason, not your emotion. Communicate your reason, not your emotion. You may want to pause and evaluate your emotions, evaluate what you're feeling. And that is why part of what I say when people say they are stressed, or someone just comes, when I ask you the question, how are you? And what you tell me is, I am fine. I say, break it down. We have to learn to break it down to understand what exactly is the emotion that I am feeling that is making me to feel this, that, and the other way. I want us to look out for ourselves. But while we look out for ourselves, also ensure that we're not putting someone else in harm's way. Looking out for ourselves, knowing how to set boundaries for our health. When we say mental health, I think we are not dealing with it correctly by breaking it down. When you say my mental health, your mental health is a combination of your social, emotional, and psychological well-being. So we have to learn to break it down. What is breaking down your mental health? Is it social pressure? Is it emotional pressure? Is it psychological pressure? Be able to track so that you can unpack it correctly and project stronger from a center, and all coming back to the importance of you building your center and recognizing that you are genius, and then learning how to communicate that genius. We live in a society where the pressures of society make us leave us often second guessing ourselves. So we have to understand and affirm ourselves first before we engage with society. So in the middle of all that I have said, I hope there's been something that you've been able to pick for yourself today. Hey, whatever it is, drop a comment, and I'd like to hear from you. Quite importantly, if you haven't registered, I invite you to register for the Compelling Communicator program. It has nothing to do with phonetics, even though it's part of it. It has nothing to do with articulation, even though that's a part of it as well. But what's the point of being articulate and having all the phonetic inclinations in this world if you are still operating from a center of no confidence, of no courage, no clarity of self, no clarity of who you are, what you represent, what you stand for, who you have been called to serve or to lead. It's very important that you understand, because once you understand that identity, then you can communicate that identity. You can project from there strongly. The main thing is, how strong is your center? Take care of yourself. Remember that no matter what comes or goes, no matter what gives in or doesn't, you don't give up until you win. And even if you don't win, it's okay. It's all right. Just ensure, by all means, that you finish strong. When you're done, try all over again, start all over again, and finish stronger. I am StephREDD, just rambling today. You have an amazing day. Bye.